Good afternoon traders, and welcome to your weekend analysis video. Hope you're well and you've all had a good weekend. I won't say hope you've had a good week in the markets, because as we all know, last week was a particularly difficult week to trade with really not much movement until Friday, obviously, when everything started to go haywire and we got a lot of momentum in the markets, which we didn't take advantage of. But what it does mean, which is quite good, is that we've now got the momentum to be able to take into next week, which will mean that we will have some very, very tradable setups going into next week. The one thing that we need to be a little bit wary of is that the way the markets have been over the past, let's say, I don't know, the way that they've been over the past few weeks, maybe even since the beginning of the year, is that they have been quite choppy, in that we've got some medium-term trends, let's say, or even short-term trends, but we haven't really got the long-term trends. So some momentum moves where you've tried to sell into or buy into the pullback has actually just kind of whipsawed you out. So we need to be a little bit careful from that perspective. But nonetheless, let's waste no more time and take a look at the opportunities that we could be looking at for next week. Start off by looking at the Australian dollar versus the US dollar. Now this one over here, there isn't much that we can trade at the moment. The one thing that we'll say is, looking at the price action over here, it could be that we'll get a breakdown of this trend line on the 4-hour chart. So a breakdown of something like that there. And if we get that breakdown there, then we can look to start selling into the move in anticipation of the markets going lower. But there's no opportunity right now for me in that pair. However, look at my watch list here. Look at on the little bookmarks on the left hand side of the currency pairs. There are a hell of a lot of opportunities that do look like they could potentially be good trades going into next week. One of them is this on the Aussie CAD. Now the Aussie CAD may look like it's not a lot to look at right now, but if we put in this level of resistance over here, which you can see on probably better on the 1-hour chart, what we've got here is an opportunity. If the market breaks out above this level, so above the 0.9522 level, we would then say that the market is certainly showing us that it's very, very bullish, and hence we will want to be buying into that. Now there's two ways you could trade this. You can either buy aggressively as soon as the market breaks out above this level, okay, which will ensure you'll get in regardless of whether the move is a big move initially or not. Or if you wanted to be a bit more conservative, you could wait for the market to break above the level and then potentially give us some sort of consolidation above that level before then breaking to the upside again. You could do kind of either or, depending on whether you want to be aggressive or conservative. But make no mistake, if the market does break out above this level and hold above this level, it's a very, very bullish sign, and certainly means that we want to be looking at buying opportunities. If we then take a look at the Aussie franc, now the Aussie franc is great because we've now broken beneath a couple of big structural levels. So we've got, if I come over here, we've got this first structural level at the 0.7076. Then we can go a little bit, let's get rid of that there a minute. If we go a little bit lower, okay, so if we were to go, let's say down here at the 0.7051, we've got an even bigger structural level, and ultimately the lower price support that the market here has broken through. What we want to be doing is we want to be selling the market as long as it can hold beneath this level. If it breaks back above the level, then we would have to say that potentially we could look at some short-term buying opportunities. What ideally we would like to see going into this evening's trading is for the market to consolidate a little bit. Okay, so do something like this, all the while holding beneath the level in one way or another. Then when we come to our charts tomorrow morning, look to take a break of the trend line and ultimately of the 1, 2, 3 reversal in and around this level here, ensuring that when we take the sell, we are below the 0.7048 level. Okay, that will represent a very nice price action setup. In terms of placing our stop, I would say that we want to place it a little bit above this level, so give the market a little bit of room to breathe, and we'll be looking at around the 0.7074 area in order to place our stop loss. In terms of a target, we would have to cast our eyes to the 4-hour chart and say that we'll at least be looking down at the 0.6964 in order to take profit. But if it can get below there, there's no reason we can't start attacking the lows down here at the 0.6681. But we'll keep an eye on that and see how that progresses. Looking at the Aussie yen, so the Aussie yen has also, or is playing with, a previous level of support here. We've got some amazing momentum going into this trade. The one problem that we have is just below that level there. If we just move this, why is that doing it? Let me get rid of that. If we just move this trend line somewhat, down beneath that level, well, where the market is starting to attack is a big level of support. So we need to be very careful here. The kind of trade that I would like to take on this one would be maybe some sort of a pullback on the 1 hour chart and take a sell into that level. So what I would be looking for is for the market to kind of pull back something like this, get some sort of an entry around here, and then take the sell off and literally take it into that level. I believe that the market will approach the 7.747 level. The markets do tend to gravitate towards key levels. And I just hope that we get the pullback before we get that, because we can play the short-term pullback into this level and then decide once we get to that level how we want to, whether we want to take profits, whether we want to wait for the break of the ultimate support, or maybe if we want to flip and reverse it and start buying from that support level. But that will all depend on the price action when the market approaches that level. The Aussie New Zealand is also broken beneath a big level of support over here. So all of the Aussie pairs really have done that. So we're below the 1.0298 area. In order to be able to take this short, we need to be shorting beneath that level. That doesn't mean that the market over tonight can't sort of neander back and forth between that level, something like that. As long as by tomorrow morning when we take the short, the shorting opportunity is somewhere beneath the 0 spot, or beneath the 1.0298 area. We need to be beneath this support level in order to take the short, because if the market starts to break back up above this level here, then you could be looking at a bit of a reversal price action, so something like that, and see the market roar off into the sunset to the upside. That's a very possible scenario. So when we're looking to take all of these trades here, we need to make sure that we're taking them beneath the key levels, okay? So just to recap, the way that we're going to play this is look for some consolidation in and around this level here, and then tomorrow morning when we wake up, look for the breakdown of that level, which will roughly get us in at around the 1.0289 area. And once we're below that, we've got nothing but fresh air all the way down to the 1.0190. The CAD Franc has now clearly shown its hand in that we had the reversal price action up towards the highs here, the 0.7645. The market then reversed, sold off, pulled back a little bit and sold off again. And since then, obviously the market has been going lower. What we want to do in terms of a trade here is look for some sort of a pullback. I would probably say, looking at the price action here, we either want that pullback on the 1 hour chart or the 4 hour chart, and we would like it towards this previous level of support over here. So the breakout point becomes, we would then hope for it to become resistance. So if we can get a pullback there, maybe on the 1 hour chart, like so, some sort of a pullback up to here, we can then look to play the trend line break, or we could play a 1, 2, 3 reversal at that level. Either or would work out well for us and would represent a good price action setup. In terms of where we will put our stop loss, we will put it above the high, wherever that may be. Preferably somewhere, I guess, around or above the 200 moving average as well, which currently sits at the 0.7487 or in and around that area. So we want to give it a little bit of room to breathe, okay? I absolutely think that this market is going to go lower, but I think that we've got to wait for the pullback in order to get into it. We don't want to chase the markets. If you chase the markets, you usually end up coming out unstuck and ultimately losing money. The CAD yen, very similar to the CAD franc. So we've got some nice momentum here. If we look at the charts there, we've also got a nice level to trade from. These are the best trades. When you kind of have to take a pullback and it's not from a level of support and resistance, you're just trading, well, obviously you're trading the pullback, but you're trading the, what's the word that I'm looking for here? You're trading the collective market's expectation of where the price should turn around, but based on no reference point. Whereas when you have a support or a resistance level to trade from, you have a reference point that you know the rest of the market will be looking at. You know, it's clear as day that this is a previous level of support at the 82.47. So if the sellers are in control of this market, you can guarantee that when the market pulls back to that area there, it's not just you that's going to be looking at that trade. The rest of the market is going to be looking at trade and basically getting involved in that trade. So that's the benefit of trading at previous levels of support or resistance. The fact that the whole of the market is going to be looking at the same level. Whereas if you're just looking at a pullback in the midst of nowhere, you know that it's not going to be the rest of the market, because it's quite an subjective sort of entry, trading a pullback without a support or a resistance level. I hope that makes sense to you there. So just to recap, we want to see the market pull back to this level. You can do it on the 15-minute chart as well here, but basically pull back to this previous level of support, which then should act as resistance sometime into tomorrow's trading. We would then want to get the sell-off there. So the sell-off from that previous level of support becomes resistance. I promise you, these are price patterns that you will see over and over again over basically every different currency pair, every different time frame. The phenomenon of previous support becomes resistance and previous resistance becomes support never ceases to amaze me. If we move on to the franc yen, so the franc yen is way, way, way below the previous level of support, which is this guy over here, which means that to expect the market to travel all the way back there may be a little bit unrealistic. If it does go back there, that's fantastic. We can play that like we played the CAD yen. But what I would probably say is more realistic is if we get some sort of a pullback like this, a bit of a shallower pullback, going into tomorrow's trading, and then we get a breakdown of something like that. So don't be afraid to take this trade short on the trend line break, even if the market doesn't retrace to that previous level of support, because I think it's not to say it's impossible. I just think that it's asking a lot for the market to retrace that far before selling off. So don't be afraid to be a little bit aggressive there and sell into this move if we get the opportunity, even if the market hasn't pulled all the way back to the previous level of support, which becomes resistance. Now we're coming to some of the euro pairs. Now the euro pairs are nowhere near as, let's say, as obvious as the Aussie pairs and the things we've been looking at just now. I know that this is the euro Aussie, but what I mean is the pairs that include, you know, the euro dollar, for example, or even, I mean, we're not trading the pound this week, but include the pound as well, because obviously with everything going on with Brexit, the moves are going to be what's going to be a little bit more difficult to trade, because there's going to be political statements and news coming out from all areas of Europe and the UK over the next coming weeks, and that can obviously affect the currency prices. We need to be a little bit cautious when we're trading those setups. We'll start off with the euro Aussie. Now this one here, we can see that the market is broken out beneath a previous level of support, which you can see there, and it's now pulled back to and treating it as resistance. The way that we would play this, I don't think this is something that we can take going into the European morning, but if you're someone that stays up and trades the Asian session, if you see some sort of price action like this, the 1, 2, 3 reversal during the Asian session tonight, that might be a good opportunity to play the previous level of support, being this area over here, becomes resistance, because the market rallied up to that level, and of course with no surprise that's where it eventually paused, and hopefully it will turn around, giving us an opportunity to short it. It's not something I'm going to get involved in, because I'm going to be tucked up in bed tonight before this opportunity presents itself, but it is something you want to keep an eye on. The euro pound has been going short from a longer term basis for a while now. We've been looking for opportunities to get involved in this, and I like the fact that what we have here, if we take a look at the price action on the 4-hour chart, is we had the market attempt to go higher, and then when it attempted to go higher, look at how aggressively it was sold into. What that tells us is that the sellers of the market are still very, very much in control here. So what we want to do is we want to look for some sort of a pullback within the moving averages there, until we obviously wake up tomorrow morning. And once we wake up tomorrow morning, we then want to see the breakdown of what hopefully will be a nice harmonic looking trend line, something like that. Okay, price action along here. See the breakdown of that trend line tomorrow morning, and we need to be big sellers in this. You know, you've got a lot going for it. First of all, you've got the longer term trend, of course. You've got the fact that the market tried to break out of a previous level of resistance and failed and got sold into with a lot of aggression. Okay, so we've got that as well. And then we've also got the short-term momentum here, okay, which is part of that sell-off. So we've got long-term trend, short-term momentum, and a failed break to the upside. So all of that puts together tells us that that potentially could be a very, very good trade to take going into tomorrow. The euro yen has sold off really quite nicely, so now we're trading towards the lows. All right, over here at the 124.32. The problem is that we're trading actually at those lows. All right, so what we need to do is we want to see, or I want to see anyway, in order to take this. I want to go short, but I want to see some consolidation. So it might be that I look for some consolidation on the 1 hour chart rather than the 15-minute chart. So the 1 hour chart, some sort of consolidation along this level here. Which will probably mean that it will be Tuesday before we get involved in this trade. I mean, maybe we get some price action tomorrow that says, you know, you want to be in it as of Monday. That's why we're talking about it now. But I really think that the better setup, looking at this price action here, will be consolidation over Monday and then the sell-off following that. The Euro New Zealand is broken beneath a previous level of support over here. But like I said to you before, we need to be a little bit wary because it's the Euro pairs here. And actually what's happened is the market has broken back up above the previous level of support there. So it broke down, it broke back above it, and it's now currently holding above that level. The way that we're going to want to trade this is ultimately we're not going to take any short trade above this level. And ideally, if we can see some sort of consolidation around this area there, ideally we want to be selling beneath the low at the 1.6366 area. Okay, that would probably represent the best opportunity, the most conservative one, and the most high probability one, because we don't want to be selling above this level because ultimately this level is a line in the sand, if you like. It's the level where the traders will be saying below this level we're short, above this level we're long. So we don't want to be selling above a level where everybody potentially is going to be a buyer. So we need to be patient, wait for this consolidation, and then sell into that move. The euro dollar, obviously we can see a lot of momentum to the downside here. What we're going to be looking for, either on the 15-minute or the 1 hour chart, is a little bit of a pullback. Let the moving averages catch up a little bit. And then sell the second momentum move. We've had the first momentum move there. It's clear as day that the market here wants to go lower. We just need to wait for the right price action setup to be able to take it. But perhaps that's what we'll talk about in tomorrow's inner circle analysis video, because I don't necessarily think that's going to set up over the Asian session here. In terms of the pound pairs, there's not a lot that I want to do with them at the moment. With all of the instability in the market surrounding Brexit and things like that, I'm just going to leave them for the moment. Yes, that may mean that there's opportunities that we will miss, but I think it's better to be safe than sorry and make sure that we build up our accounts as opposed to sort of just try and trade everything and anything that moves and end up losing money. Okay. The New Zealand CAD, I don't see any real great price action set up here, so we can leave that. The New Zealand franc looks like it potentially could break down, but if we look at the price action setup over here on the 4 hour chart, it's absolutely atrocious. No momentum there. New Zealand yen, however, looks potentially like a pretty good, a pretty decent trade. What we have here is a longer term. Oops, let me get that trend line in there. A longer term level or a longer term upward sloping trend line that potentially could be broken. It's not quite broken yet. Yes, the price is below it, but that was at the very last thing on Friday. But what I would like to do here is see that this trend line is broken. All right, so get the sell-off from the trend line, a bit of a pullback towards that area, because what can happen is a previous level of support, so trend line support, could then act as resistance. It's really not uncommon to see the markets do this. It's break for a trend line, pull back to it, and then sell off. And we ultimately want to be getting involved somewhere close to the second sell-off. It's a little bit more conservative, so you could say, oh, I'm going to sell it from here. as soon as the Asian sessions open up later. But to be honest with you, that wouldn't be a prudent way to trade your account. We really need to see how this information is going to be absorbed overnight, and then potentially come and look at it tomorrow or Tuesday in terms of taking a trade from it. The dollar CAD is breaking up at the moment. We've got some nice momentum to the upside, as you can see here on the 15-minute chart and also the 1-hour chart. Plus the 4-hour chart seems to have decided that it also wants to be long. The reason that I say that is if we zoom into this price action here, the market broke beneath structural levels twice, okay, in the previous week. And both times it broke it, you would have expected, if the sellers were in control, that they would have been able to push it much lower. But what's actually happened is that each of those moves were bought back. The market then broke back up above the previous level of resistance, indicating to us that actually the market wants to be long. And if it wants to be long, who are we to stand in the way? What I would like, before the market approaches the high here, because I think ultimately it will approach the high, so I'd like a little bit of a pullback in the 15-minute chart. Okay, so this guy over here, some sort of a, let me put in the high there so we can see exactly what it is that we're playing with. All right, I'd like the market potentially to pull back to this previous level of support, of resistance, sorry, and then get a buy signal from this area here. This could be a double opportunity, and that even if we don't get that, when the market does get up to this level, hopefully we want to see it meander at this level, give it a 1, 2, 3 reversal and break down. Okay, so there are two opportunities here. One is the pullback into the previous level of resistance, and secondly is the rally into the ultimate higher price resistance and then the reversal at that level. The dollar franc looks interesting. We're playing with a previous structural low here at the 0.9903. We've also got this trend line in here, okay, upward sloping trend line. Looking at the price action on the 4-hour chart, you would have to say that we need to be bearish. There's a lot of momentum here. What I would like to see, ideally, is for the market to break through this trend line sometime tomorrow morning. So not necessarily in the Asian session, because there's no real level to trade it from at the moment. But tomorrow morning, when it comes to the European session, get the breakdown of that level. Get the breakdown of the 0.9904 level. Stop above the highs, okay, around the 0.9980, for example. So about 80 to 100 pips above where your entry point's going to be. And then ultimately look and wait for the market to sell off beneath this level, beneath that level there. And then if it does get beneath there, we'll be looking for the market to approach the 0.9800 area, and depending how the market does at that level, we will then either decide to take profits at the level, or we'll try and leave it for the market to go on and attack the 0.9716 for about another 85 pips worth of profits. We'll have to wait and see how that kind of plays itself out. And then finally, we've got the dollar yen. Now, the dollar yen, I'm looking for a little bit of a pullback here. Yes, we've broken a few structural levels. So we could say this guy over here is a structural level at the 110.76. And then below that at the 110.33. Okay, we've broken that structural level as well. So what we want to see is a little bit of a pullback in this pair here towards that level, so something like that, bit of a pullback there, and then a sell-off going into tomorrow's trading would probably represent the greatest opportunity. We've got the momentum in the dollar yen. Now it's just a question of taking advantage of it, and to do that, obviously, we want to be looking for the shorting opportunities. Okay? So thank you so much for watching this. It's great news that actually we've got some momentum in the markets, because last week was really, really difficult having to, basically every day say, well, there's nothing to trade, there's nothing to trade, there's nothing to trade, there's nothing to trade. But it just goes to show that when you have patience, and you don't try and force the trade, the market does repay you. And we've got a whole host of opportunities that we can look to trade going into tomorrow's session. So take care now, and I'll speak to you in tomorrow's Inner Circle analysis video. Have a fantastic day. Speak to you all soon.